Okay, hello everybody, and welcome to the BCA user training session. This first half of this recording will be training for how to log in and use BCA. Then we'll stop the recording, and then we'll resume the recording, and we will record the second part of this session, which will be a Q&A session for everybody who's got questions. All right, so let's get going. First off, I want to show everybody how to get to the BCA page on our support site. The BCA page is where all the good stuff is stored. So the first thing you do is you go to the RSA support site, which is support.librariesofrsa.org. Then the quickest way to get to the BCA page is to go to, oh, by the way, if you just want the login, like to log into the BCA page, under RSA links, it's the very top one right here on the main page. But I always go to topics and then reports, and then Blue Cloud Analytics is how I always get there. And of course, on the BCA page, the very first link there is the login screen for the BCA client. Then underneath there, this needs to be retitled. There is an email address that you should whitelist in your whatever email addresses you're sending BCA reports to, distribution services at microstrategy.com. This is where our reports from BCA are coming from. The next thing in here is something we're not really going to discuss too much today, but if you want access to personally identifiable information, that is generally patron names and IDs, addresses, emails, that kind of thing, your library has to fill out a PII agreement, and that agreement basically says that when a library staff member leaves the library, you'll notify RSA immediately. And then there's a RSA PII user agreement, and each person who's given a PII account with the extra reporting capabilities has to additionally sign an agreement, basically saying they won't abuse that information. The next part of the BCA page we'll talk about later, but it is direct links to a new way to do reports in BCA called dashboards. And each report has its own direct link. You go directly to that link, you log in with your BCA information, and you're just running a report. There's no digging through folders or anything like that. I've got 2 more reports to add to the list of 5 that are already out there. Those are cool. You should play with those. We'll look at 1 or 2 briefly later. Then we have the cheat sheets and guides section. This BCA user guide is brand new as of the 15th. So if you were to click this link, what it would open would be not that. Not that. That would be that. The BCA user reference guide. Just redone. It's got some information on it. It's got some information about terminology. Then it's got basically screenshots and telling you what each thing is in the screenshots. It's kind of a written version of what we're going to go over today. And then some information on how you run a report. A couple of important buttons in the interface, and then kind of goes through and gives you just a quickie of what each one of these icons or options in the menus do. So this is a good thing to kind of download and have as a backup. If you've got a question about, oh, what is this thing, or how do I do something simple. Then after that, we've got the Blue Cloud Analytics Data Reference Guide. That is from Circe Dynex, and it's probably not super helpful to you all. But what will be helpful is this BCA Workflows Terminology cheat sheet, which is this one. And basically what this one does is it shows you a picture in item search and display, and then what things are called in BCA and what they actually mean in a context that you understand. So you'll note that we have lots of arrows and lots of names that are called out here. And the reason why we had to do that is because BCA is designed to work with two different systems, both Symphony and Horizon. And so they picked terms that weren't directly applicable in one or the other, um, but made a certain amount of sense. And after you use BCA for a while, everything does make sense. Then there are some instructions for subscribing to reports, how to save a personal view, which we'll talk about, which are kind of fun and important. Exploring data with Excel. If you've ever opened an Excel and you see on the headers these little drop-down menus, that allows you to sort data and hide data and do some fun things. And it is a way that you can make a BCA report very interactive after running it to dig really into the meat of the report. A lot of people use Excel to do data digging. So there's a quick couple of page guide on how to do that. And then we've got some videos. Here's a video for logging in. There's a video on how you run a report. There's a video on how you create a personal view. These are all 3 to 5 minute long videos that just walk through that particular process. They're fairly new. And again, if you've ever got a question, just watching that video will give you like just a quick overview of, oh, that's right, that's the process that I do. So again, back at the top is the link. So I'm going to open that up. This is the login screen for BCA. You'll notice the big M. The company that makes this is called MicroStrategy, so there's a big M up in the corner of all these things. A couple of things when we talk about logging into BCA, these are individual per user login names. Do not share them. If you share them with someone else on staff and we hear about it, we will terminate your access. We can't have you sharing usernames. We can't have you giving out your password because this system is not behind our firewall. You can be anywhere in the world and go to this page and log in. So we have no way of stopping you from logging in other than terminating your access. So please, please, please do not share your username. In addition, do not change your password. There is an option to change your passwords in the interface. Don't use it. The password that we have assigned to you is a bit long and a bit complex, but it's not super hard to type if you don't have a password manager, and it's a little bit easier to remember unless you have one of the like 8 or 9 year old accounts that is just a random sampling of spaghetti letters, numbers, and special symbols about 20 characters long. Most people don't have that. Most people have a number of words with some numbers and characters in them. So just leave those passwords alone. If you log in a couple of times and it says you can't log in, you probably locked yourself out. Just send a quick email to the help desk and we'll get you unlocked. I do know what everybody's password is. You don't need to send me your password. If you don't know what your password is, I'll send it to you. So, speaking of passwords, so I'm going to log in here. This is my generic testing account, and as you can see, it's a nice long password. This is the BCA login screen. Every now and then, you might see another box option here. The RSA BCA one is the one you want to log into. If there is another box here, it's usually because we're doing some beta testing with Circe Dynix, and it'll say something like RSA beta instance or whatever. You just ignore it. Just click on the RSA BCA account. One thing I need to tell you before we run a report or look at any reports is BCA has a special magical date. And that magical date is the beginning of time as far as the computer is concerned. The computer believes that time started on the 1st of January of 1900. And it uses that date when it doesn't know what the actual date is or if no date is assigned. So for example, if you have a user account that is set up, say your mending account in your library, and you ran a listing of your users with their expiration dates, your mending account is probably going to say 1/1/1900 as the expiration date because there isn't an expiration date. So the system uses 1/1/1900. Likewise, if you want to run a report and you have to give it a date range and you say, well, I want to see everything in here that the system could possibly have, you can use 1/1/1900 as the beginning of time and then yesterday's date as the end of time. So you will see 1/1/1900 on some reports in places that maybe it doesn't make sense. And that just basically means that that is a data field that doesn't have an answer for a date. And so it's 1/1/1900. Other thing I'll tell you is feel free to play around with pretty much anything you see here in the system. You can't break anything. You can't overwrite a system report. So it's okay if you play. Worst case scenario, you run a report that takes the system down and give it about 20 minutes and it'll reset itself and it'll be back. But you can't break anything and it's rarely ever down. So that's good. All right, so what do we have on the main page here? Well, number one, up in this corner is who you are, who you logged in as. I said there was a preferences option. It's right here. You don't need to ever go into preferences. There's nothing in there that you will really need to change other than potentially an email address. If you ever need to do that, just email us and we'll hook it up for you. That's just easier. There is a login thing here if you want to log out. This will log out after about 15 minutes of non-usage. It'll log itself out as well. On the top row, again, we have the big M and we have the home. As you can imagine, the big M has your home menu. If you're anywhere else and you click on the little house, it will bring you back to this menu. Backwards and forwards buttons. Don't use the browser back and forwards buttons. That'll break things. Use the buttons here on the screen to move backwards and forwards. This is an up one folder option. So if you are 3 folders deep and you want to just go back one, you can click the up folder. Also, likewise, you'll notice that this line of text expands out to show where you are in the hierarchy. And you could again click on any of those links and jump directly there. So it's a little bit of navigation help. Over here, we have recent reports. I don't ever use that. We have shared reports. That's where everything that we've designed and developed for you guys is stored. My reports are things that you have saved. And when you save a report, that kind of breaks it apart from the system report, and it's the version that you own. And then when you own it, it appears in my reports. We have a history list, which in RSA's context doesn't do what we think it should do. We never use it. Don't ever use history list because it will lie to you. It's useful in some corporate instances where they run a report and then they go back and look at it later. In RSA's context, it just gives you bad data or no data. And then we have a My Subscriptions screen. When you subscribe to a report and you tell it that you want to get a report Monday through Friday at 8 a.m., and you click on My Subscriptions, it will show you everything that you're subscribed to and when they run. And we'll go through all of these. All right. So first off, let's just get right in here and run a report. So again, all the reports that we have designed for you are in shared reports. So we're going to click on shared reports. We're just going to run a basic report right now. The basic reports are basically set up for like the 12 most common questions that we get, and we wanted to write a report for that. So you can start in here. One of the things that we get asked a lot is a count of items at a library. So I'm going to run the count of items at your library. To run a report, all you do is you highlight the title and you click on it. If the report has a filter that you need to fill out, prompt and filter, by the way, we use those kind of interchangeably. If there is a filter to limit the amount of data in the report, it's going to show up on this page. There could be one, like this report. Almost every report makes you pick one or more libraries. There could be as many as 15 or 16 filters on here. You don't have to fill anything out on these filters unless it's required. This particular filter is required. Notice it's red and it says required. It will not let you run the report until you do something. Typically, if a filter is not required and you left it blank like this, that's telling the system you want to see everything possible. So when we run a report that has more filters, you'll notice that I leave a lot of them blank, and a blank filter just means give me everything. As soon as you move something over into the selected area, then it's going to limit you to just what is owned under that particular thing, and it's going to eliminate everything else. So in this case, I'm going to pick Alpha Park. And so there's two things you can do. You can highlight a library name, and then you can push the single arrow and it'll move it over. These double arrows will either move everything one way or another, or if you pick a library and go, oh, that wasn't what I wanted, you can move that single library back. If your library is alphabetically not at the top, let's say if I was looking for Avon, which starts with V, I would just click over here into the window and type a V, and it jumps down to the starting of the Vs, and then I could pick one. In this case, I wanted Alpha Park, so I'm going to go back up to the A's. I'm going to click Alpha Park. Again, I can push the single arrow, or I can just double click on it and it'll move it over. Here's a very important thing. So I'm ready to run my report. If you hit enter here, that doesn't run your report. You actually have to click the run report button down here in the corner. Cancel will get you out of this screen and take you back to the previous screen. But if you want to run the report, you have to click run report. And sometimes the run report button is hidden. There may be too many filters on the screen, or your window is not very big, or you've got some bottom bar turned on in your browser and the run report button's not there unless you scroll to see it. For years, that was the number one issue that we got reported to us. Was I was trying to run a report, but I couldn't figure out how to make it happen. This run report button was hidden. It used to be hidden a lot more, but it's better. Most browsers don't hide it anymore, but it used to get hidden quite a lot. So we'll click on run report. This report runs pretty quickly because there's not a ton it needs to do. And this is now the body of the report. This is where all the good stuff happens. So this particular report's not showing you a ton of information. It's showing you the item library code. Almost every report we have shows the item library code box, even if there's only one library. And we do that because we have lots of members that have multiple branches. And we want to be able to break out each branch's information in the display. Or let's say you have another library in RSA that you're fairly close in size to, and you just want to compare yourself against that other library. You could add both of your names, and then you would get counts for both of those libraries. And we have the item type listing, then we have the number of items listing, and we have totals down here. So let's say you maybe you like this report doesn't have much data in it, but let's just say you wanted to rearrange some of these columns. You can do that fairly simply. You can use the arrow button here to move things. So I move this over here, and now you'll notice the report's a lot messier because of the way it does the totaling. So I'm going to go ahead and put that back. The other thing you could do is you could do what's called a page by. This is this empty field right here. It says page by. There's a little button here that's got two windows, and it says page by this field when you click on it. So I'm going to click on it. And now what that's done is it's basically said, great, I'm only going to show you whichever one of these item types you select. So let's say I want to look at books. Oh, well, there's 65,000 books at Alpha Park. Now, in this report, that's not super helpful because, well, I could have figured out there were 65,000 books by looking at it before. If this, however, was, say, a shelf list, and I wanted to see from Alpha Park, I only was interested in the items that were book S, then by adding this to the page by field and then clicking on book S, now the report would only show me the 33 items in the shelf list that were that particular item type. So it is useful to use that. But if you put it up there by mistake and you don't want it there anymore, you can do the move to rows, which will take it back out and put it where it was. And then I'm going to move it back. And now we're back to the report that we had. Let's say you get to this point and you're like, that's great, but now I want to see a different library. How do I go and run this report and get a different library? What you have to do is you have to go to the data menu or the home menu. The option's the same in both. The data menu, and then you go to this little question mark inside of a piece of paper. And that report is called the reprompt menu. And basically what it does, you click it, and it takes you back to the field where you can make your choices. So let's say you've run a list report and you forgot an item type and you needed to add it in. You do the reprompt, takes you back here. You change your data. In this case, now I'm going to add Cambridge schools. So where's C5? If I knew my alphabet better, I could get there quicker. So I highlighted C5 and C6 over here. I hit the button to add them. I will click the Run Report button again. And now, because I changed the data, it comes back and it shows me the same report again. And again, now the library code column makes more sense, right? Because now I've broken out the two schools into individual breakouts. So that's why those are there, right? So anybody who's got a branch can see them. And then again, you could do page by and then just pick one school or the other or the total of the two together. That's what the page by field does. All right. Boop, boop, boop. And then, oh, finally, if you mess things up really badly, I'm going to mess it up pretty badly. There's an option that is called, it's under the data menu. It is called Reset Data. If you click on the Reset Data, it will fix pretty much all of the things that you have done to a report. There are one or two things it doesn't fix, but pretty much it returns the report to how it was. And I said before, there are back and forward buttons. If you've moved a column accidentally, the back and forward buttons will help you out of that. You can back out of a change. Oh, look at that. There's one that you couldn't back out of. Now I do need to reset my data. Oh, I can't reset data either. That's annoying. I'll have to do it the normal way. All right. So anyway, reset data is another good one to know about. Okay. So we've run a report and we have some report data. Again, if you look in that user reference guide that we just redid here this month, everything in here is covered. All these fun little things, they're all covered. And I'll cover some of them here in a minute. But again, the important options for you to know is the reset data, the reprompt option here. And then in report home, most of the things you're going to want to do are here in report home. Report home, and honestly, for almost all of these menus, except for grid. Notice grid doesn't have the little down arrow. That's because grid does not have a drop down. I don't know why. I guess the programmers were tired that day. They didn't put a drop down here. Format has a drop down. It's only got two options in it, but it's got a drop down. I don't know why grid doesn't have an option to do a drop down. But hey, you know, I didn't write it. Report home, save and save as. Let's say you don't ever want to have to select your libraries again. There are two ways that you can save a report so you never have to make that selection again when you run the report. Number one is save as. And I'll just tell you right off the bat, the difference between save and save as is, does it remember the filter selections that you made? So if I do a save, when I do a save, it's going to only allow me to save things in my reports, in that my reports folder. You notice you don't have the option to save to the shared reports folder. That's good. We don't want you to have the option to save there. So you just do my reports, right? You give it a name that means something to you. And then you've got the options here about prompting or not prompting, right? So keep the report prompted. If you uncheck that, You won't see those prompts again. Whatever you chose is what you get. Don't save it like that because you're going to want to reprompt it at some point. So if you want to keep it prompted, but you want it to remember the prompt answers that you gave, you can click this box called set the current prompt answers to be the default prompt answers. And when you save the report, it'll ask you to resave the newly run report. You'll notice these two things are now here. So if you had made 10 different filter changes, they're all going to be saved when you do a save as or a save. Now, save as, if you make any other changes and you do a save as, it will give you the option to reprompt the report. If you make changes to this report, like let's say you like it better looking like this, I don't know why, but maybe you do, and then you click save, it's going to ask, do you want to overwrite the copy? You go yes. It didn't ask you about the filter prompts. It's never going to ask you about the filter prompts again. It just assumes that whatever you told it is what you want. If you did want to change that, you do a save as, and now you've got the option to just do filter and template will be prompted, which means you have to answer it, or you can set the current answers as the defaults, but then change them when you run it. The other thing you can do here, actually, let's mess this up a little bit so you can tell the difference. I talked about creating a personal view. Creating a personal view is almost more preferable than saving a report unless you've made big changes, right? Create personal view, what that does is you just give it a name, count items at your library is fine, and then you're done. It doesn't ask you anything else. Now, what happened in the back end when we go back home, and if you go to the My Subscriptions screen, up at the top, we have these personal view subscriptions. And the one that I just saved was count items at your library, 123.25, right? This view, personal view, when I click on it, it's going to rerun the report as I saved it with the filter prompt answers that I gave it and with the changes to the report that I made from the delivered report. That'll be important in a minute here when we start talking about Excel. And again, you can't, once you've gone here, you can put the report back. You can go back, you can do a data reprompt and change the filter answers. Again, everything's working the same once you're in the report. Oh, sorry. Once you're in the report, everything works the same. But saving it as a personal view means that you don't ever have to change any of those prompt answers if you don't want to. So that's basically the quickest way to save a slightly personalized copy of a report. So you have a shelf list that you set up to only look at items that are 6 months or more in 4 different item types. You set that up once, you create a personal view from report home, create personal view, and then you just go to the My Subscriptions page and you run it from that personal view section. The other important things in the report home menu are sharing, which you will never use because all it does is create a link to BCA, which is useless, right? That does no one any good. So you never need to do share, by the way. Send now, on the other hand, is how you would send this in email to someone. So if I click on that, the to entry is defaulted to Figaro, who's a cat. These are all cats and made up people here, but these are the people in this particular user's mailbox that they have sent an email to. If the person you wanted to email is not in there, you click on the to, you put a name for the person, you put their email address in. Oops, if I knew my email address, I could put it in. And then you do add to recipients. I'm going to take Figaro out because I don't want to send him something. Device, just leave it as generic email. Now, this person will be added to my personal email book, so I never have to type them in again. So now I'm going to send an email to me. Data in email is what you want. You don't ever have to change that one. Delivery format is one you may want to change. So you have two options, well, multiple options, two good ones. HTML means that this report looking like this will be sent in the body of the email. So you'll open the email up and it will have the report that looks just like that. You get, sometimes we'll get those as, well, oftentimes you'll get that as a scheduled report with just the information in the email. You could turn that chart into a PDF and subscribe to it as a PDF, and then it will send it to you as a PDF. You could send it to yourself as an Excel document, but it's a formatted Excel document, which means it will look like this. And this white space that makes the report good and readable on screen breaks Excel's ability to sort the columns. So I'll show you the fix for that in a minute. Plain text is basically just everything stripped away, and it's just text or a CSV file. You pick one of those, give it a file name. Typically, the file name and the subject name are going to be the same unless you change them. You get about 200-ish characters to send a short little message to the person to tell them, hey, you asked me for this report, here you go. And then you click OK. OK. And then it tells you, hey, we will send this email in a second. It's basically what that little message said. Now, I did say that if you wanted to use this in Excel, there's two ways that that can happen. You can do an export. And again, same options we had before, PDF, Excel with plain text, CSV, Excel with formatting, HTML or plain text. Again, PDFs and Excel are the ones you're probably going to choose. An Excel with plain text is just Excel with no formatting. So all of this is stripped away. All the white space is stripped away. It'll say Cambridge on every one of these lines. There won't be any blue. There won't be any yellow. The columns will all be shrunk down. Excel with formatting keeps all this formatting. So let's do that. We're going to export it. Excel with formatting is what we chose. We want to do the whole report. Just click on export. It pops up a question, says, do you want to export this? And it did export it, and I am not sharing that screen, so hold on just a minute. And I will share the Excel so you can see it. Where is the share dialog? There it is. That. All right. So here is the Excel that it sent me. Let me make this a little bigger. Looks just like it did on screen, except for the columns aren't quite the right size. So you can, resize the columns. But you can't sort this now because this is one field and these are multiple fields. So if you knew how to do sorting in Excel, you can't, because this is all one field and you can't unmerge it and keep the information in here. So this type of report, this is an Excel with formatting. And if you subscribe to a report, by default, this is what you get in the end of month or every day of the week or every Wednesday report. It will be Excel with formatting. I'll show you how to fix that in a minute. But it's not as useful if you want to do data digging. It's very good if you want to be able to better understand the data layout. So we'll go back. Now I have to change what I'm sharing. Hold on. Share. Okay, so now I'm going to go back and I'm going to do another export. I'll show you the difference. And I'm going to do export Excel with plain text. For those of you who like, again, everything's set, just hit export. Your settings on your users are all preset to give you the best copy or the best version that we could give you. Okay, now I got to change the share again. I think it's that one. Yes, it is that one. So here's the other one. You'll notice this one, all that white space is gone. That says Cambridge on every one of these lines. We've also got the total line in here, which is kind of a pain. We've got the total in here. These are all textual fields. There's no formulas in here. But if you did decide that you wanted to do a filter to do some data analysis, you could turn the filter on, and then you could say, the only thing I care about are books. So I'm going to get rid of all of the non-book and the totals. And now I'm only seeing books. Again, this is not a great report. If this was a shelf list report, you could use it to immediately log in on anything that was marked as missing, for example. You could just go up, turn the filters on, go up to the top, unselect everything, and go, I only care about this one thing, turn the filter on, and then you're only seeing the one thing. All the data in the report is still there. If I go in and remove the filter, clear filter, all the data is still there, but it allows me to dig into the report. But that only works if all of these columns are not merged. There's no white space. This is harder to read if you're just trying to figure out what's going on, because the difference between C5 and C6 is very small when you're looking at a big list, right? But if you want to use Excel to do data manipulation, this is what you want. And again, we've got a cheat sheet on using Excel to do some digging on the BCA page. So let's go back and look at how you can fix that very easily. And even those of you who have been using BCA for years will probably learn something new when we do that, because this is, I'm not sure how new this feature is, but it is somewhat new in the fact that I didn't know it existed until last week. So under the grid format, or the grid menu, which is the only one without a dropdown, there are two very important fields. Field 1, merge column headers. Field 2, merge row headers. Notice they're both blue. That means they're both turned on. I'm going to turn merge row headers off. Now look, I've got data in every field. Yay! That means if I export this as a scheduled report, it will keep all of the formatting. So the spacing, the color, the totals being highlighted, all that will be the same as the one that had the white space, except now the white space is gone. So again, in Excel, you could use this to do data manipulation. It's also just a good idea if you're turning off one merge to turn the column header merge off. There's almost never a merged column header. It's usually the rows that are merged. Now, here's the fun thing. You don't have to save this report to export it as a scheduled report or export it to an email to get the formatted but unmerged text in Excel. So now if I go to export with formatting, it'll keep the formatting, but also keep the merges gone because I've turned them off. But better yet, if I go to subscribe to email, the emails that come to me now on whatever schedule I send will not have the white space, right? This has been something people have asked about for years and years. Can we have a copy of this report that doesn't have the white space? Well, as it turned out, I learned last week, we don't need to make a separate version of it. You can just turn it off yourself and then subscribe to the report. So if you have a report that you're currently subscribed to that you wish was not merged, go back, rerun the report, unmerge it, resubscribe to it, and then you will get one that looks like this. By the way, subscribing to an email, again, because I've added myself to the to field, I can just pick myself now from the list. Pick a schedule. When do you want it? There are lots of options in here. That's because these options were set up for every library using this product around the world. So you notice most of the times are in Eastern time zone, except there are some in Central, and there are also some in Pacific, and there are some in European. There are some really weird options. Quarterly is a good option for many people, but first quarter of the month, first Monday of the month, Wednesday mornings. Wednesday mornings are really popular. You notice how many time slots are there on Wednesday mornings. Tuesday through Sunday, Tuesday mornings, Every day of the week is in here. Every day of the month is in here. Weekly on some days, yearly on July 1st for somebody's fiscal year. Every Monday, every Tuesday, every Saturday, every Wednesday, every Thursday, options, just tons of options. I'm going to say I want this every 20th of the month. I don't know why, I just do. Data in the email, this is a small report. If I chose HTML, it would come looking like this, which is really ugly. I would not want to do that. I would want to send that as Excel. Again, that's going to be formatted with the colors, but not formatted with the white space because I've turned that off. The other thing that's, again, give the file name and the subject line of your email, something that means something to you, and type something in the message, unless it's coming to you. For me, I have little short messages because it's a report I subscribe to that is something like end of month report. And then if you click the send a preview now button, not only will you get the first one that you will get would be on the 20th of the month. Unless you click send a preview now, that means that yes, it's scheduled for the 20th of the month, but it also will send you one right now for you to look at and to review. It's a good thing to do that if you are subscribing other people to a report, because you can say, hey, I have subscribed you to this report. It's going to run on the 1st of the month at about 9 o'clock in the morning, and I sent you a copy of it right now. So that's what that's for. I'm not going to schedule that because it'll take me forever to find it. Okay, I am done with this report, so I'm going to go back to home. Now let's run a complex report and see what the difference is. So I'm going to go into advanced reports. And now is where the fun starts, right? Well, what do I want to run in advanced reports? Well, I want to see an item list. Okay, well, items. I don't want an item count. I want an item list. And then I'm going to do item list builder. Well, you'll notice we have lots of item list builders in here. That's because people keep asking us for different things, and we don't want to necessarily modify an existing report that lots of people have subscribed to, because if we modify the base report, everybody subscribed to it also gets the modifications. So unless there's something broken with the report or the change we're making is fairly minor, we just build a new report. So I'm going to run the item list builder from Web Reporter. That's what the from WR Web Reporter, which was the predecessor product to this 10 years and more ago. It was very important to many users of Web Reporter at that time to have equivalent reports in BCA. So we titled those from Web Reporter. So I'm going to run this one with the ISBN. You'll notice this one has 16 different ways that I can slice and dice the data as I select it to run, right? None of these are required reports. There's no little red next to any of these, which means if I just leave everything blank, all of these options, if I leave them all blank and click run now, A, the system's going to be very upset because B, it has to create a report with 4.1 million items. You're going to get a shelf list with 4.1 million items, or you're going to crash the system, one of the two. So let's not do that. But I will choose a fairly large library. I'm going to choose Alpha Park. So find Alpha Park in the list and I double click on it. And in this particular case, I would like to see all of the movies that Alpha Park has within a certain time frame, because I just want to see what Alpha Park's got. So I could go through here and pick all the different Blu-rays and all the different DVD item types, but I'm lazy and I don't want to do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down here to item category 3 and I'm going to pick movie. Item category 3, movie, has all of the movie and video item types assigned to it. So movie will cover all of that. Again, item cat 3 book covers all the books, large print, whatever. And then I care about pub years. So I want to add a publishing year. So this is a very weird list. There was a movie created in the year 0 and a movie created in the year 1. And we have a very old movie from 1003. I'm going to guess there's probably Not a lot of those, and they're probably errors. What I care about, we have lots of movies from the 1800s that, according to this, were published in the 1800s. Um, that could also be books, by the way. It's not just movies because we haven't told it what to limit it to. So the system is going, well, you have a book that was published in the year one. So how about we show you the year one because it's something in the database. What I care about is 2020 through 2025. So I'm going to highlight all those years and add them to my pub year. And then I'm going to do a run report. And it's going to think a little bit. And what I've learned is if you spin your mouse in a clockwise circle, it speeds up the computer. If you spin your mouse in a reverse clockwise, anti-clockwise, counterclockwise motion, it slows the computer down. So there you go. There's your tech tip of the day. So again, a list of movies published between 2020 and 2025. I chose Item Cat 3 movie. We have DVDs, we have Blu-rays, we have more DVDs. Let's see what other item types we've got in the list. And we've got 4 pages of results, so lots and lots of results. 1,336 items, lines, basically. 1,336 lines, which in this case, there's 1 line per item. We could tell which one was the most popular by going over here to item legacy total charges. That's how many times it's been checked out. And we could sort by this column. So if you click the little arrow, it starts with 0. So these movies never searched yet. Or you can click that little arrow again and reverse sort. And Paw Patrol, imagine that. Paw Patrol been checked out 54 times and is currently checked out. That is the most popular DVD at Alpha Park, individual item anyway. Now, again, this is a report where you probably would want to set up a personal view because maybe you want to run this more often than not, or maybe you only cared about 2025. So rather than having to re-answer all those, you could just go to Report Home, create personal view, click on that, give it a name that's descriptive. Movies 2020 through 2025. Click OK. Now you can just go back and rerun this report and it's going to come right here. In fact, it's going to come right here and it's going to be sorted by item legacy total charges because that's how I left it. Again, we talked about using a page by field. So let's look at, we're going to use the item current location and we're going to click the 2 little windows to do a page by. And then I want to see everything that is lost. So we're going to do lost assume location. Here are all the movies that are in lost and assumed. Like now we're down to 33. But again, that's a very handy way to dig through the data that is on screen. You can export a PDF like this. It'll do like 1 page per each thing. You can export this as an Excel file with a page by, and if you've checked the field that says export page bys as tabs, these would be tabbed out. You can play with those to get an idea of how that works. Again, I'm going to reset the data. Get rid of that. Go back to how we did have it. Also notice that the item total legacy charges sort that I had picked is now gone. Again, the one other thing that you may want to know is in the grid menu, and that is this one here to change the layout and colors. Some people like a little more color in their report, and you can do that. I don't know how this made it into a published Fortune 500 reporting company product, but they have a theme called Romantic. I guess this is what you use on Valentine's Day. That's very pretty. You could export that into Excel and it would look just like that. If you export it as a PDF and you print this, you're going to use all your pink ink. So don't do that. The best one to use, honestly, if you just want something very, very plain, is Table. Table view has no merges in it. So if you set something to table view and save it and then export it to Excel, it's already got the merges taken out. Notice all these alpha parks and all these Blu-rays and things are not merged. Again, I could go here and I could re-merge them. I could click on the under grid merge row headers, and now it's merged out a lot of things. Alpha parks only showing once. If we moved item type to the beginning, notice the Blu-ray until we get to the end of the Blu-rays. Now DVDs are starting, right? That's the merge field. This particular theme comes delivered without the merges turned on. So it's hard to read on screen, but works better in Excel. All right. And we've talked about most of the other things that are important here. The one thing I want to stress is that under the Tools menu, you should have everything from page by down checked, essentially, right? So if you uncheck something, you'll notice they go away, which is really annoying if I said I wanted to do a page by the item type. Oh, okay, well, it comes back on. But you could turn that page by off, and now you don't know that that's what you did. There's nowhere on here that now says that, oh, I'm only looking at one item type. So make sure you have everything from page by and view filter down checked. The pivot buttons, that's how you can move things around. The sort buttons, the report bar, you want all of those things checked. And that in that data user guide, it does give a picture and show you all these need to be checked. That's just to make sure that you have as many options as you can possibly have. So we're going to hop out of here. My reports, that's just the things that you have saved. And then again, the My Subscriptions screen. Email subscriptions, this is everything you're subscribed to getting via email, when it's scheduled to come, who's getting it. So like this report is going to 3 different people. This report here is going to 2, 3 different people. If you have some of these reports and you don't want them anymore, you can very easily get rid of them. You could get rid of, like if I do this top line here, count class of 83, count at your library, and I do this one and click unsubscribe, it's going to unsubscribe it from both of those people. That whole one is gone. If, however, I've got a report that I want to keep, but someone has left my library and I don't want to keep sending them that report, I can just unsubscribe one person. So I can make tofu go away, but the other 2 will continue getting it. If something is closed and it's just going to you, I can just unsubscribe that. That whole report's gone. Same thing with the personal views. Let's say we've got to the end of this class weeding report, and that one is not one we need anymore. Right. We don't need that anymore because that project is done or that school class is gone. Just click unsubscribe, click the checkbox, click unsubscribe, and you can make that personal view go away. So if you want things to go away, feel free to unsubscribe from them. I'm going to unsubscribe all of these so I don't get emails from them. Okay. And that is kind of the quick rundown of this version of BCA. This is the old version of BCA. Again, shared reports is where all the fun stuff is. Legacy reports, I think that's most of these are empty. We removed most of these and put them back. I wouldn't worry too much about those. Everything you want is either in basic or in end of month reports, which has got all of your basic counts and things that are sent to you to your RSA Gmail account at the end of the month. Survey reports, these will give you IPLAR answers. Advanced reports, there's a lot in here. You can look at your own. The best way to know what's in a report is to run a report, to be honest. There are so many reports. There's a folder called dashboards with no PII. These dashboards I have turned into interactive links, which we're going to go look at now. So you really don't even need to come in here too much to look at these. because they're all going to end up out on the RSA website. And frankly, they are easier to run on the RSA website. So we'll go back to the support site, and we're going to go down to the interactive collection browser window. So interactive standalone dashboard links is the section we're looking at. There are currently 5 reports out here. I've got 2 more to add. So there's a cheat sheet for this, by the way. You can download the interactive collection browser cheat sheet that talks about the interface elements that are used in this new way to look at these reports. Those interface elements are the same in all of these interactive reports. So if you download this and look at it, it will give you information about this particular report because this report's kind of complicated, but it will also tell you the interface options that all the other ones also use. So let's look at this, right? So the one thing we get asked a lot is, I would like a shelf list that I can look at a little more easily to slice and dice the data that I'm getting, or looking for cataloging issues, or what are my lost items, or what has circled the most that I need to think about replacing. It's kind of hard to do that in that report that had the 16 different filters. That we just ran, because you've got to go jump back and forth to look at the list. But the interactive collection browser is a little bit easier. This is MicroStrategy's new methodology for running reports that's a little more modern. So you just use your same old login that you use for Web Reporter. Or, I'm sorry, I've been here so long. I remember all these products. Blue Cloud Analytics. You use your BCA login, and you log into the interactive collection browser. Now you notice this data came up a way quicker than the other data. Most dashboards are not instantaneous, but almost instantaneous. There are 1 or 2 dashboards that have to run a report in the background, so they take a good 30 seconds to open and show you data. But once they're showing you the data, you can slice and dice them however you want, and it is going to accept that and just boom, 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 change what you're seeing on the screen. So this is a collection browser. There are some instructions real quick up at the top, because this is the first one of these I built and nobody knew how to use it, so I put some instructions up here. Interface elements, table of contents. The table of contents screen, you could pin that to the side of your screen if you wanted to jump between things. This particular report has 2 pages of data. There's one by dates, prices, and charges, and then there's another view that is by item categories. And you can jump between those 2 by using this. There's a home button if you get off of whatever the report came to. So if I click the home button, it's going to take me back there. So I'm going to turn off the table of contents. There's also a bookmarks here. So let's say you have moved all your stuff around in here and you have found something that you want to keep and refer back to without having to adjust all of these filter slider thingies. Once you've got it where you want it, you can go here to bookmarks and you can save a new bookmark, or you can edit an old bookmark. So if you click the plus, it's going to save whatever you're looking at on screen. So back in September, I had saved a look at normal nonfiction items with 200 or more checkouts. So I can just click on that, and all of a sudden, all that work that I did to find those items and that particular shelf list, it knows that because it saves it for me and it logged me right back to it. So I'm looking at library of normal. Out of the whole list, I'm only looking at normal. There are 21 titles with 21 items. They've checked out between, what is that, August 31st and September 26th of 2024, nonfiction. And they have total charges of a lot. If we scroll over here, the total number of charges are off the board for most of these. It's everything 200 or more. So if I wanted to know what had circled the most, I could just look at this list and find whatever the biggest number is, 352 Super Mario Galaxy video game. Imagine that. Most of these are video games, in fact. So these are very popular. So that might tell you that if it's a video game, you might want to check it and make sure it still works. These are music. If that's a CD, a Taylor Swift CD, you might want to check and see if that thing needs cleaned, right? So you can use this to do very specific things. So we'll go back to the beginning here. We'll get out of that saved view. By default, it comes up on the AG library. That's just how I've got it set up to come up because it's a short list and it's fairly quick. This particular view. There's a share option over here to export to Excel or PDF. I do not suggest you use that because if you do, you get, well, it depends on what you want, I suppose. If you export from up there, you will see all of these particular options. If you export from this little 3 arrow thing here, all you will get is this window, which is the shelf list, which is probably what you want after you've done all the work. All right, so let's pick another library here. Let's say we want to look at IRE. So we'll click on IRE. We will unclick the AG library, so we're only looking at IRE. As currently set, there are no filters to anything. So this is all the items in the IRE collection. But let's say I only care about brief records. I could either unclick all, which will make a list of nothing, and then click brief, or I could go, oh, I only care about brief, so I'll click on only next to it, and it'll remove all the other checkbooks. And maybe all I care about are book brief items. Okay, now my list is down to 326 items. I only care about J fiction at the moment because I need to do a little digging. When I'm down to 73 items. Oh, maybe I want to see something else. I want to see things that were last checked out since the middle of December. Well, there's my listing of brief books and juvenile fiction as a home location that were checked out since the 17th of December. All of these sliders interact with each other. All of these interact with each other. You change one, it changes a lot of the others. The other thing here, if you go to the table of contents, and again, something fun to play with, item categories, right? Let's turn this back off. Notice this has been reset. When you switch between pages, the filter selections do not carry over. So the IRE selections that I made on this page, do not carry over to this page. So if I wanted to look at IRE things, I need to go back and, well, I'm going to click on all, and then I'm going to click on none to clear out the one from normal. Now I'm just looking at IRE. There are some of these filters that are preset, so I need to go back and reset them. If it's a slider, you can do unset filter. Okay, now we're back to everything. Now I could go, well, I want to know only things that are movies at IRE. Okay, so item category 3, again, grabs all those movie item types. Item types, here's item type. All the movie item types, no matter what it is, DVD, Blu-ray, DVD, PG-13, whatever, appears here. And then again, if I want to export just this list, I go to this little 3-dot menu. I do export, Excel, or PDF. I don't want to show the filters. I do an export, and a PDF file appears on my screen. Or sorry, an Excel file appears on my screen that looks just like that. And then I'm done with this report. There's no way to go from this report to a different report. This report is its own link. It only runs by itself. So I'm going to log out. Then I'm going to go back to the RSA page, and I want to see checkouts and renewals over time, something lots of people ask me for. So I set up a report for it. This will be the last one we look at. These all run fairly quickly, so you can go through and look at those on your own and see how they go. This particular report, people said, hey, I would like some history of how things are checking out at my library so that I can make some staffing decisions, or I can see, what the most popular times and days were. This goes back about 3 years worth of data, 22 through 25. You've got the overall charts here. You've got the total circ. I've chosen Alpha Park as the library in this particular case, but you could choose your library or any other libraries. For instance, we could do, let's go to Greater West Central. Again, if I knew my alphabet, there we go. You'll notice I can select all these and the data changes fairly quickly. That's the point of this. I want to only look at the year 2024, so I'm going to change these dates. I could use the little widget as well to pick dates. For me, it's easier just to type them in. Then maybe all I care about is things from the juvenile collection. I could look at only the juvenile collection from last year. So I can tell pretty quickly that uh, Greater West Central is not open too much on Mondays or Fridays because they get very little. Well, juvenile collection anyway gets very little checkouts on those days. Something that's maybe a little more helpful. Um, you can, in this particular one, you can remove patrons using RSA Cat. So all the renews that patrons do in RSA Cat, you could look at those and you could go, oh, wow, 8 o'clock on Tuesday is a very popular day to renew items for my patrons because that is the largest line here. So last year at Greater West Central, the 8 o'clock hour on Tuesdays was the most popular hour to renew your books. But that doesn't help me staff my library. So all I care about is staff in library checkouts. Sunday and Monday you're closed and Friday you're closed is what it looks like to me. But you do have lots of people there, 5 o'clock on Thursdays, 9 o'clock in the morning on Saturdays, the kind of 2 to 4 time here on Tuesdays. So you can get a pretty good idea of checkouts are blue, renewals are red. And again, you could go back and say, well, I really only care about juvenile stuff. Maybe it's summer reading or whatever. What is the most popular time for juvenile item cat 2 items to be checked out? And again, Thursday afternoon is still quite popular. So something like this can help you slice and dice your checkout data and get a better idea of like staffing patterns or usage patterns of your library. Again, something we were asked for, something that in the new interface we can make useful. In the old interface, all you would have seen was numbers like this, which are far less helpful. Log out of there. And with that, I will again remind you that you can use the BCA page to get to those interactive ones. There are 5 there now. There'll be 2 more in the next week or so. Blue Cloud Analytics page also has the login link. Thus ends my training. So hold on, I'm going to stop the share. I'm also going to stop the recording and then I'm going to restart the recording for the Q&A. So hold on just a second here. I need to get to recording. Where's the recording? Stop recording.